Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. It's Saturday afternoon. I frankly really was not planning on doing very much reaction stuff today. Obviously, Saturday, college hoops, round of 32, everybody's watching games, etc. But there is that lingering topic that everybody wants kind of an answer or a resolution to. That is the present and future of John Calipari at Kentucky. And I do believe there was kind of a very interesting update that broke around noontime right before the game started on Saturday morning that I think is at least worth discussing right now. And then obviously whatever happens, we will have reaction to, whether he returns, whether he leaves, whether he retires, whether he's fired, whatever. But obviously, look, if you're plugged into this channel, you know, after Kentucky lost to Oakland on Thursday night, we did like basically a 2-hour post-game show that was essentially all Kentucky. We talked about that game from every single angle, every single twist, every single turn, what went wrong. Can it be fixed? Is it time for John Calipari to go? And frankly, even who the heck would be the next head coach? And I kind of expressed my thoughts. Listen, Cal's been great to me throughout my career. I wrote the book One and Fun, etc. But listen, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. And that is basically where we are with Kentucky basketball. And so I found it interesting because Thursday into Friday, there's so much reaction. And then by the time you get to Friday afternoon, Friday evening, we kind of move on to that next slate of games. And I remember thinking about 3-4 o'clock Friday afternoon, I said, you know, this just feels like one of those things. It was a huge story. It's going to go away. We're going to focus on the teams that are still in the tournament. And all of a sudden, we're going to look up and John Calipari's he's going to be the head coach next year and nothing will have changed. Well, I bring it up because I woke up Saturday. I'm on the West Coast, so it was a little bit later than most of you, to a couple very interesting, frankly, kind of cryptic commentaries from people in the Kentucky community that I do kind of quickly want to react to, okay? So the first one, and you know, to me, the most important one does come from my buddy Matt Jones, Kentucky Sports Radio. Now, I know Kentucky fans, some people don't like Matt, some people do, whatever. Matt's been great to me. But what I would also say is whether you like Matt, whether you don't like Matt, he is very clearly plugged in with the Kentucky administration. Very not plugged in with John Calipari. That is well documented, even by Matt himself. But he put out a tweet that absolutely caught my eye and really made me think, oh, this is kind of worse than I probably thought it would be. This was from Matt Jones a little bit before noon Eastern time on Saturday. He said the decision is all, here is an update on UK basketball situation stands right now. The decision is all in Barnhart's hands. I get the sense that if he decides he wants to move on, the money will be there for reasons Andy Staples described in his video yesterday. There is a sense of nervousness with everyone around the program because no one is really sure where Mitch Barnhart's mind is right now on it. I am told the university leadership is supportive of whatever he decides. I think we know something by Monday, if not before. Okay, so for people who do not know the Andy Staples video, so Andy Staples actually put out a video on Twitter, part of a bigger video that he did for On3, and frankly, it actually touched on one of the topics that we have discussed quite a bit here on the Aaron Torres Pod and Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel, and I think because Andy has a background like mine, where he covers college football and college basketball, knows the nuance of both. You know, Andy's probably a little bit more of a football guy, but he's been around basketball. I mean, he covered those Florida Gators national championship teams. So he gets it. He understands it. But what Andy Staples essentially said was what I have been telling you for weeks. Everybody is focused on the big, bold number of John Calipari's buyout. Everybody says it's impossible to get out of a contract that big. Nobody's going to pay $33 million, whatever. And what I have consistently said is what Andy Staples said in his video, is that at the end of the day, most buyouts, as a matter of fact, I think virtually none of them, when you're talking beyond a $10, $12, $15 million amount, which is an insane amount, I get it. I couldn't pay it. Most people watching this video probably couldn't help their school pay it as well. But I bring it up because I think there's this thought of like, well, it's $33 million. No way Kentucky can come up with that money. Most buyouts, you don't have to write a check for the full amount the day that you fire him. It's not like John Calipari goes into Mitch Barnhart's office
and Mitch Barnhart tells him he's fired, and then John Calipari comes out with one of those big publishers clearinghouse checks with $33 million on it. Most of them, there's a lump sum that usually has to be paid within 15 to 30 days of the firing, and then the rest gets paid out over a period of time. Andy Staples referenced the same one that I referenced a few days ago. Jimbo Fisher, we kept saying, can't be done, $75+ million. Then you find out the buyout is actually, it's like $15 million with probably like a $5 million per year over the next 10 years, Bobby Bonilla kind of deal. And so when you put it like that, yes, $5 million a year for the next 10 years is a lot of money. But Jimbo Fisher wasn't paid $77 million the second he was fired. And my guess is almost certainly, and I have not seen the contract to verify, John Calipari is not going to be owed every single penny in his contract if they get rid of him. And so when you realize that it's probably something like 10 to 15 million, which isn't cheap in this NIL era, a lot of you I know watching are Kentucky boosters and donors. I know that's still a lot of money. But if it's like 10 million and the final 23 million gets paid out at 2 million a year for the next 10 years, all of a sudden that becomes a much more manageable thing. And so that's what you need to focus on. And I think that changes the conversation with Kentucky about John Calipari. If you had to spend $33 million today, probably not happening. If you have to spend 10 today or 10 by April 1st or 10 by April 30th, and then the rest gets spread out, it's a completely different conversation. And so because of it, I'll be honest, I think this thing is probably further along than a lot of people realize or want to acknowledge, because it has gotten bad at Kentucky. And this goes into a lot of the stuff we talked about on Thursday night. But listen, I've been the number one Calipari defender forever, okay? I love him. I love what he's about. I still believe in my heart of hearts, the combination of pizzazz, if you will, excitement, recruiting chops, and he still does have regular season success. Kentucky finished second in maybe the toughest SEC ever this year. They finished second in the SEC 2 seasons ago. They won the SEC in 2020. So it's not like it's bottomed out. But at the end of the day, there's a couple hard truths. One, this is a guy that has always sold. Nothing happens in November, December, January, February, whatever. Everything comes down to March. Well, the March results simply have not been there. You don't need me to tell you that. We know about them, but it's worth repeating. By the way, I found this stat. I found it. Wasn't like an amazing piece of work by me. But this NCAA tournament, there was only one, 2, or 3 seed that did not make it out of the opening round of the NCAA tournament. It was Kentucky, UConn, Purdue, Houston, whoever. I'm just trying to think of all the 1, 2, 3 seeds. Marquette, Creighton, you go on. They all advanced. Most of them, frankly, didn't even sweat. North Carolina didn't sweat. Houston didn't sweat. UConn didn't sweat. Marquette, it was close for a half, and then it was over. Creighton, it was never really close. Kentucky's the only one that lost. And so when you add that in with the St. Peter's loss a few years ago, these are quite literally the 2 worst losses in Kentucky basketball tournament history at a time. 1, they're in a 3-year stretch, but 2, they're at a time where you have been selling us that everything it comes down to March. And so I think John Calipari understood what was at stake for him coming into this NCAA tournament. What ends up happening, we'll see from here, but he understood the stakes. He got it. He knew what was at stake, and he knows that he is not living up to his bargain as the Kentucky basketball coach. And I think what makes this one different, 1, it is now officially a trend. You don't win in the SEC tournament. You don't win in the NCAA tournament. You're one of the top seeds that's out early every single year. You're losing weird games that you never used to lose back in the day. But here's the other part, and this is something we definitely talked about on Thursday. I don't know what the fix is for John Calipari. Like I don't think Mitch Barnhart wants to do this. I think Mitch Barnhart wants to be at a second-round NCAA tournament site, advancing to the Sweet 16 today, and of course, from there, planning on a second weekend and maybe a Final Four run, okay? But the problem for John Calipari is not just the losses, but what is the fix at this point? If he is meeting with his AD, who is ultimately his boss, I know they don't speak, whatever, but if you're meeting with your AD, what is the sale? What is the pitch that you are going to turn things around? Because I don't know what it is at this point. After 2021, the COVID year, what was the pitch? We're gonna shake up the coaching staff. Brought back Orlando Antigua, and to the credit of Orlando Antigua and Chin Coleman, they've done a great job bringing in the kind of players that you need. 2022, they went transfer heavy. That doesn't work. Now they go back to the high school recruit philosophy. Worked in the regular season, had success, did not work in the postseason. And so the question becomes, what is the pitch? There is no pitch, and this goes back to what we talked about on Thursday. What makes Calipari so tough to fire is there's always going to be that next group of freshmen ready to step up, and you can always sell, well, I mean, well, give it another year. I mean, wait till we get this guy on campus and that guy on campus. Well, this was the year. You had DJ Wagner. You had Reed Shepard. Obviously, we didn't know it was going to be this good. You had Aaron Bradshaw. You had a couple returnees. And so when you look at the situation, I don't know what the sales pitch is, and I'll be curious to see what happens next. Now, one, could they just part ways? I mean, I think, frankly, that's probably the most likely of all results. I hate it. I hope it doesn't come down to that. I do think that John Calipari, in a perfect world, deserves better than just a pink slip. Like, I hate to say it, like it's the truth. He deserves better than that in terms of how his time at Kentucky ends. Walking into an office, walking out, you're fired, pack your bags, pack up your office. He deserves better than that. He does. But we know he's stubborn. We know he's not just going to whatever. And so I'm curious what happens. Is it a firing? I had a buddy of mine who's a Kentucky fan. He suggested something that I actually really like. I don't know if we can get to the point where this happens, but I would like to see a scenario. Could you come to a compromise with John Calipari? One of two things. The first one, which I think is more realistic, you give him 2024, 2025. Kentucky fans, wait. Just listen to what I'm saying. 2024, 2025 is essentially his Coach K retirement tour. You say, we can't keep going on like this. I can't keep just letting you go in perpetuity and not getting the results that Kentucky fans expect and demand and deserve. And so if that's the case, at that point, do you say, I'm going to give you 2024, 2025? The pressure is off. It's not going to be a game-to-game thing of fire Cal, don't fire Cal, da-da-da-da. At that point, it gives the fans an opportunity to just take a deep breath and say, hey, this really is the last dance. This guy gave us 15, 16, 17, whatever it's going to end up being at that point. Great years. He brought us a lot of great memories. Anthony Davis, John Wall, the John Wall dance. I could go on and on. 38-0, the best regular season in school history. Like, give Calipari that, and I hope that's what happens. The other thing which I think would be interesting is you just kind of rip up the contract and kind of go the more traditional, hey, 4 years, whatever, we'll give you 4 years so you don't have to worry about recruiting, but it's no longer this lifetime contract, no longer this massive buyout. Let's renegotiate that contract. Let's get that buyout to where it's manageable, where 2024, 2025 really is your shot, where if it doesn't work out, we can write you a check for $5 million and you can be on your way. So I'll be curious what happens. It sounds like a resolution is coming soon. As far as candidates, if it does happen, I did a whole candidates list on Thursday night's show. And I think this is the other concern of Kentucky fans, is what Mitch Barnhart should do. I'm not quite sure is what Mitch Barnhart will do. What Mitch Barnhart should do is what I said from the beginning. I said you should do basically what every fan wants an AD to do. Blank check, go get the best people. And I do wonder if this weekend period is for Mitch Barnhart to really make that call to say a Jay Wright representative, hey, is there anything? If we offer you $100 million guaranteed over 10 years, would you take it? Would you talk? Would you sit down? If we offered you $70 million over 10 years, would you take it? Would you talk? Would you sit down? Brad Stevens, if we offered you $100 million over 10 years, would you take it? Would you sit down? That's what I think he should do. That's what I would do. And it goes back to what I said on Thursday night. Remember when Rick George, the Colorado AD, hired Deion Sanders, and the press found out about how much Coach Prime cost? And what did the AD say? They asked the AD, where are you going to get all that money? He goes, we'll figure it out. I think that's what you got to do if you're Kentucky. You can't half-ass this search, but that's what I'm afraid Mitch Barnhart is going to do. And that's where it gets interesting, because to me, it looks like, for all intents and purposes, people with boots on the ground, they seem to think that Mitch Barnhart has an infatuation with Scott Drew. Baylor head coach, national champion. I sort of get it. I'm still not sold that he'd be the best guy, the perfect guy for that job. But that's probably where it's going to be going. And that's a whole other set of questions and concerns for Kentucky fans is, okay, we get rid of Cal, but do we want Mitch making the hire? Those are conversations that we're going to have on the Sunday night show, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, as this story unfolds. But I had to get you a Saturday update. This is fascinating. New twists in the John Calipari quandary, whatever you want to call it. But it is absolutely fascinating. If you missed any of our coverage from Thursday night, make sure to check it out as well. We went through candidates. We went through all that good stuff. Keep it locked on the Aaron Torres Pod YouTube channel. And also make sure you're subscribed.